There's a moment when I realized this might be the best chocolate dessert I've ever eaten.
Wow, that's like perfect. So here in Phoenix, fall has begun. And we know it is fall because the temperature is less than 100 degrees. It makes me very excited because I can start using my oven for baking again. Now, if someone very special has a birthday coming up and I want to provide a cake, well, this person lives out of town, and so a cake's not really going to transport very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cake recipe and try to make cupcakes out of it.
Cupcakes? Oh yeah!
Now, I don't have a lot of experience with cupcakes. In fact, I never really have decorated fancy cupcakes or any of that stuff, so this is all kind of a learning experience for me. I'm hoping it'll come out very well, though. Let's fix it. So the cupcakes I'm making today are based on a hot water chocolate cake recipe. Now, a hot water cake is very good for chocolate because it really brings out the flavor of the chocolate. So I'm really hoping this will be super chocolatey. And also I'm going to add a little espresso as well to really bring out the chocolate flavor. And there's going to be raspberry filling and a nice chocolate frosting. The basic procedure of a hot water cake: you mix all the dry ingredients in one bowl, then you mix all the wet ingredients in another bowl except for the hot water, mix all that together, and finally you dump in the hot water before you put it in a pan and goes in the oven. I'm going to start off with 2 cups of sugar, which is 400 grams.
Now you know you've been baking a while when you have the sugar measurements memorized. It's 200 grams per cup.
Next we're going to do 1 3/4 cups of gluten-free flour mix, and that is 260 grams.
I used to make my own gluten-free mix, but Bob's Red Mill definitely does the job, so I keep going back to it.
Now we're going to do 1 1/4 cups of cocoa. When I measure cocoa, I like to kind of pack it like brown sugar. By the way, when you're doing baking, you want to get a nice cocoa, something like this. You don't want to just use any cocoa off the shelf.
Yeah, I don't know if I can stress this enough. You need to get a quality cocoa if you want to have real cocoa flavor.
So that's about 155 grams of cocoa. Then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt.
The tried and true visual hand pour of salt works every time.
Then we're going to have a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder and a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Let's do the baking powder first. Then the baking soda. Now that's all the dry ingredients. Going to set that aside for right now, and then we'll do the wet ingredients. For the wet ingredients, we're going to start off with 1 cup of milk. For my oil, I'm going to use 5/8 of a cup of avocado oil.
I've never used avocado oil for baking cupcakes or cakes, but I think it's supposed to really add a good amount of moisture, so I'm excited to try it and see how it goes. I hope these cupcakes aren't too dry, otherwise Bart Simpson might whip them against the wall.
I got a better game. It's called whipping cupcakes.
Then I'm going to add 2 eggs and 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. That's all the wet ingredients except for the hot water and the espresso. It's time to get the electric mixer going. So I have my dry ingredients in the mixer ready to go. Just going to stir that for a minute, and then we'll add the wet ingredients. I'm starting at a low speed so I don't make a big dust storm everywhere in the kitchen.
Looking at that mix right now, it kind of looks like what you might find in a chocolate cake mix in the store, but trust me, it tastes 100 times better.
So now we'll dump in the wet ingredients and mix it up. Wow, that is super dark. It smells super chocolatey too. I was just checking, that's actually really well mixed already. Now I'm going to heat up some hot water. We need 1 1/4 cups. I'm just going to use my electric kettle. I'm going to put the espresso shot in first and then go ahead and add water until we have 1 1/4 cups.
That looks like a pretty tall shot of espresso there. Nice.
Okay, we'll just dump that in now. And gently mix it around.
This is fast forwarded. I probably mixed it for 30 seconds or so here.
It's coming together pretty nicely. I'm just going to scrape down the sides and run it one more time.
Yeah, when you dump a thin liquid over a thick batter, it doesn't mix in straight away, and a lot of times you have to work the sides to really get it mixed in, but just keep at it. It'll get there.
Okay, that's a good start. I'm going to remove the bowl from the mixer and then finish mixing it by hand.
Sometimes the old-fashioned way is the best way.
With a hot water cake, the batter is going to be really thin. That's okay.
Yeah, when you're making a hot water cake, a thin batter is definitely a happy batter.
Looking good. Now let's pour out some cupcakes. I have no idea how many cupcakes this is going to make, so I'm just going to see what happens. But I do think you need about 1/4 cup of batter in each cupcake, so I'm going to use a 1/4 cup measurer to scoop out the batter.
Spoiler alert here, if you're following along with this video as you're making the recipe, use 1/3 cup measurers. It turns out 1/4 cup doesn't fill up the cupcake liners very well because it's a very dense cake. It doesn't rise very much. So go with 1/3 cup if you want full cupcake liners.
All right, those first 6 look good. Now let's try some more.
Yeah, this process was pretty simple. The only challenge I had was trying not to drip batter all over the cupcake tins, and I found scraping the spoon on the bowl as I went over there, it really helped out with that.
That easily made 24 cupcakes. I do have some leftover batter. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet, but I'm going to go ahead and put these in the oven for about 16 to 20 minutes at 350 degrees. The timer's ringing. I'm going to do the toothpick test to see if they're done or not.
I think these baked for about 23 minutes total. They took a little while being so dense.
I'm pretty happy how these came out. Notice these ones over here, they have some cracks on the top, some of them. These were the ones that started off on the top of the oven, and then I rotated them to the bottom later. I'm wondering if maybe they cooked a little faster, which is why they may have kind of cracked on the surface. I also could have cooked these at 325 degrees instead of 350, and then they would have risen a little bit more evenly and a little more flat. I just wanted to try 350 because I've never made these before and just see how it happened in the future. Maybe I would try 325 just to compare and see how the results came out. But fortunately with cupcakes, the frosting is going to go on top and it's going to hide all these things, so nobody's going to know. So I did some quick research on cupcakes, and it turns out that after 5 or 10 minutes, you're supposed to remove them from the pan while they cool. That way they won't get a soggy bottom or overbake. It's been about 5-ish minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now.
My first instinct was just to dump out the cupcakes, but I thought it would make kind of a mess, and I thought the cupcakes would stick to the cooling racks a little bit, so I was trying to be more careful. I started off with a spoon to see if that would work, and it didn't, so then I had to try something else after that.
I figured out a method. What I'm going to do is just grab the side of each paper liner and then stick it on the rack after that.
Uh-oh, cupcake down. You have to be careful when you're doing this.
I just learned something else. if you slip and drop one, when you use a parchment liner, it releases from the cupcake liner. So you want to be careful about that. It's that one right there.
That's right, I'm calling out a cupcake. Let's get these cupcakes cooled off so we can start making the jam.
So the raspberry jam recipe is pretty straightforward. You need a 1/4 cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons cornstarch, a tablespoon of lemon, and 1 10-ounce bag of frozen raspberries. So what I like to do is put in the raspberries first. Then I like to put in the cornstarch. Go ahead and stir that in.
I like to coat the raspberries with the cornstarch. I feel like it helps prevent lumps when you start to heat up the jam.
Now I'll add my sugar, 1/4 cup. Now a tablespoon of lemon juice. So I have a lemon tree and I froze a bunch of lemon juice over the winter. I still have some. I thawed some out and I'm going to use a tablespoon of that.
That was really forward thinking, freezing that lemon juice, chef. Good job there.
I'm just going to stir this up real quick and then go onto the stove.
There's not a ton of sugar here, and also the lemon juice is going to make a tart jam, which is perfect for these cupcakes. When you start on the stove here, you want to have a low heat setting and stir frequently to dissolve everything. You don't want to have lumps in your jam. You'll notice after a while the jam will start to bubble. Just stir often so the jam doesn't stick to the pan and burn.
You'll know the jam is done when the overall color changes from kind of like red with white in it, and it'll almost turn clear with red. So when the white disappears from the cornstarch and the sugar and it just looks kind of clear, you'll know you're there. This one's just about there.
What I'm trying to say is when you start making the jam and everything first dissolves, it's cloudy looking. But as it cooks, everything will dissolve and start to turn clear. And it's kind of like making candy or something. When the liquid is clear, you'll know you're about there.
Yeah, I think we'll go with that. I let the jam cool down to room temperature, and now it's time to inject it into the cupcakes. So I bought a little injector, and I'm going to try using that. I've never used one before, so I'll be curious to see what happens. I'm not even sure how much jam to put in, but you know, that's how you learn stuff, is you just try it out. So my first challenge is to get the jam into the injector without making a huge mess.
Well, I researched how to fill cupcakes, and everybody was using these injector things. So that's why I bought one, and I'm filling it up, and hopefully it will work.
Okay, so it seems like what you do is you put that in, and you thread it. Like that. And then, there you go, the jam comes out. So here we go, we'll try this first one. I'm supposed to poke a little hole. Give it a little, whoop. Maybe that's too much. You're not supposed to crack it when you squeeze it in there.
Is that a "that's what she said" joke? I feel like it is, but I'm not sure.
I'm very gently squeezing this, and it kind of like puffs up a little bit, and then I stop when it starts to puff up.
Watch carefully. You can watch this cupcake puff up and inflate a little bit. Oh, there it is.
This is a pretty dense cake. It doesn't take a lot of jam. I'm wondering if maybe I should spoon out the top instead and then put jam in like that. Honestly, I can't even tell how much jam is going in there. I feel like it's hardly any. I know, I'll use this one as a sacrificial one. Now we'll cut it open and see how much jam is inside. Not much. You know, I think I would like to see more jam in there, so I'm going to go with the plan B, which will be coring out a bit of the cake. How do you core out the cake? Can I use a vegetable peeler?
Surprisingly, that did a good job with the first core, and now I'm digging deeper to make some more room for the jam.
Ready to put the little top back on. Kind of like that. Okay, so new plan. I'm going to core out the cupcakes and then put the jam in and then put the top back on if possible.
I went back to the beginning and cored out the cupcakes I already put jam in because there wasn't very much jam, and made some extra room so I could come back later and fill them up. I think I should have some background music here, some cupcake coring music, but I haven't figured out YouTube's licensing for music, so you just get me talking.
There's probably a proper tool for this.
Yeah, I don't think vegetable peeler is supposed to be used this way. I'm sure there's a better way. Let me know in the comments if you know what it is. Now I get to add the jam, and I'm much happier with the amount that you can put in there now, much better than the other way.
Well, I'm going to reload and try to do the other 12 now.
More of the same here, core out the cupcakes, and then go back through and dig a little more, and then fill them up with jam. Look at that, coring cupcakes like a boss. It's almost like I know what I'm doing here.
There's a little jam left in here. We'll use that up first.
The way I was holding that syringe, wow, I felt like a doctor just then. Just call me Dr. Raspberry. And as Dr. Raspberry, I will give you the raspberry, just like Lone Star.
There's only one man who would dare give me the raspberry. Lone Star!
Such a great movie. Well, now I'm just putting the lids on the cupcakes, and they'll be ready to hit the frosting.
Now it's time to make the chocolate frosting. I'm going to make 1.5 times the amount that I would make for my 2-layer cake recipe. I'm guessing that'll be enough. We need to start off by melting 3/4 cup or about 170 grams of butter on the stove.
Some people like to watch sunsets. I like to watch time lapses of melting butter.
Now that the butter is melted, I'm going to add 1 cup of cocoa to the mixer, and then we're going to add the butter. Now the butter combined with the cocoa is going to release the flavor of the cocoa because of the heat involved.
I like to pack the cocoa in so it takes a little effort to get it all out of there. So now we're adding the melted butter, and we're just going to mix it for a bit till it's nice and combined. Mixing the warm butter and the cocoa, it really activates the cocoa flavor and releases it. Oh, it's so good.
Now that that's all mixed together, I have about 4.5 cups of powdered sugar, which is 540 grams, and I also have a 1/2 cup of milk. And I'm going to alternate adding those into the cocoa and butter mixture. I think I'll maybe use a spoon for that. It's kind of messy.
Just alternating back and forth, a couple spoonfuls of powdered sugar, let it mix, add a little milk, a little more sugar, a little more milk. You just go back and forth until it mixes in. I really like watching the contrast in colors between the cocoa mix and the sugar.
Just going to scrape down the bowl, run the mixer one more time, then we'll add the vanilla. It smells amazing, by the way, very chocolatey. We're going to add 1½ teaspoons of vanilla, which is half a tablespoon. Now a final mix and the frosting will be ready.
You really crank up the mixer here. I mean, not full speed, but probably 3/4 or so. You really want to mix the sugar in and get this frosting to emulsify really well.
That looks perfect, but as always, we need to do a taste test. Oh, that's nice. So it's chocolatey, a little sweet, but not too much. It's nice and balanced. I've got the cupcakes all lined up and ready to go, and I've researched how to frost cupcakes a little bit. We'll see. I mean, I've never done this before. Hopefully it'll go okay. So the first thing is getting the frosting in the bag, and I saw online that you can take a tall beer glass and use that as a foundation. So I'm going to try that. See if I can get some in there.
The spoon and spatula combo worked really well, as you can see here.
This kit came with plastic liners inside the silicone. I'm not sure if that's helpful or not. Here, so you can kind of see what I'm dealing with here.
In hindsight, I think I'm probably doing this wrong. I think you're supposed to choose either silicone or plastic, not use both. So that was on me.
Well, let's just try one.
But I'm not being too hard on myself. I mean, I've seen baking shows where those plastic bags blow out all the time, so I was trying to give it a little more strength. That's why I did the combo method. You know, that's not bad for a first try. Very even spiral action there.
See what's happening there is coming out the top a little bit.
Since the plastic bag was smaller than the silicone, I had a hard time getting a grip, and that's why it kept coming out the top.
Look at that. See, I'm thinking this plastic liner is not the best idea, honestly.
Well, suck it up, chef. You're committed now. Let's just get this done.
One thing I've noticed is it's better to hold the piping bag vertically than at an angle. People with experience probably already knew this.
Yeah, you're right. People with experience probably know to hold the piping bag vertically. I was trying to use an angle for the camera's sake, and it didn't work out very well. And I went straight vertical. It was much easier to hold the spiral pattern as I'm moving along here. Time to reload. Let's see how it goes this time. Looks pretty good so far. The spoon and spatula method going strong. Apparently, cupcakes are the secret to breaking down barriers and entering apartments.
Go away.
I've got cupcakes.
Okay, well, I do have some frosting left over. I guess I could have put more on. I didn't really know, which tip to use, so I just did my best with what seemed right. But I'd probably use a larger tip next time so I could get more on. Maybe I'll just try one. Oh, maybe like a little dollop.
I'm not sure I would do this again, but the dollop actually worked out really well. I was happy with it.
For the finishing touch, I bought these raspberries, and I want to put one raspberry on each cupcake. But I'm not going to do that until tomorrow when I'm actually heading out. So what I'll do is I'll, do that in the morning and take some pictures and show you. So I'm going to do a quick taste test for you, but I'm going to use the sacrificial cupcake, the one that I cut in half, to see how much jam was inside. So I decorated it with a little frosting and a little extra jam. Let's see how it is.
There's a moment when I realized this might be the best chocolate dessert I've ever eaten.
Wow, that's like perfect.
And there it was. Did you catch that?
So, so much flavor. First of all, the chocolate flavor is insane. It's so good. The cake is moist, it's full of chocolate, it's great. The raspberry is sharp and it really cuts through the chocolate, and the chocolate frosting is just heaven in a bite. I really can't say anything more than that. I'm gonna have to sit down here in a minute. So what did I learn today? First of all, I learned that the 2-tier cake recipe I have makes about 24 cupcakes with a little extra. I think I want to put more batter in next time, so instead of a 1/4 cup, I'd use a 1/3 of a cup just to fill them up to the top. I was a little disappointed by the size. The thing is, it's a really dense cake, it doesn't rise a whole lot, so I could definitely do a 1/3 of a cup, and I think that would be perfect. Also with the jam, I learned that I need to core out the cupcakes, that the cake is too dense, that when you try to inject it with jam, that just doesn't work. So you core it out and then can put a little top on there if you want to. Also with the frosting, I learned how to at least use one of those bags. I've never even tried one before. I mean, the results aren't perfect, but it was fun, and at least I got the frosting on there. And I think when I put a little raspberry on each one tomorrow, it'll look super nice.
Wow, those are like works of art. I did put some thought into how to arrange the raspberries. I didn't want to put the raspberries pointing up because, well, I thought they might seem a little too perky.
I really appreciate you watching this video, and I hope you try making cupcakes for someone special. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Thanks for watching.